Hello, everybody. Today I'm talking about Rahu Mahadasha. And this is part of the Vimshottari Mahadasha Masterclass. And what is this shadow planet? How do we deal with it? There is a lot of misinformation also and fear about Rahu Dasha. So let us explore. Hello, I'm Komilla Sutton, and we are talking Rahu Mahadasha. And please do remember to subscribe, press the bell notification. And what about Rahu? You see, Rahu Dasha comes immediately after Mars. It is 18 years long. And Rahu is a shadow planet. That means that some of his issues are more psychological within our mind. Rahu also comes after Mars Dasha. So as we having one malefic planet followed by another malefic planet. So there is no respite. Normally the dashas will come. So Mercury, Saturn comes after Jupiter, Mercury comes after Saturn, and so on. Whereas Mars and Rahu are the only dashas that one after the other, both planets are malefic. Now, the thing about malefic planets are they are very demanding and they want you to fulfill certain things. They are more materialistic in their demand as well. And Rahu specifically is a karmic planet. So what is karmic? Karmic means that some of our old karma, our unfinished desires, are what Rahu is trying to fulfill. Rahu is always worried about the future. Can I do everything? Can I achieve what I've set out to achieve? But remember that Rahu Ketu are two halves of one full item. So Rahu is only half the story. He does not inform us totally about what he wants. And because he's only half the head part of the Rahu Ketu axis, he's very much wanting to consume more things and consume, but also it is very easy to destabilize yourself, and it is very easy to all the time feel dissatisfied. One of the biggest things about Rahu Dasha is that we feel very dissatisfied with life. And I would like to say to you that think about that. Are you feeling dissatisfied because you're in Rahu Dasha? Is your life really as negative as you think it is? Make a list of all the positive that you're experiencing and all the difficult that you're experiencing, because this will give you an idea, and focus on the good stuff that is there in your life. Also, Rahu being a shadow planet, psychological, this dissatisfaction is in the mind. So we don't think what is happening. It just creeps up into our mind suddenly that we are thinking about the dissatisfaction. So the key thing for everybody to address is the dissatisfaction of Rahu. If you are in Rahu Dasha, you want to be always thinking, what are the good stuff? Am I happy? If you want to move your home or move your career or change your city, country, everything, you have to think that what is it that I'm dissatisfied about? And is it really just a psychological or genuine aspect of it? Of course, as mature you are and how much you learn to understand the effect of the planets, you'll be able to deal with it. The second aspect of Rahu is that you always feel an outsider. Rahu is the demon among gods. So when Rahu Dasha comes, suddenly you start feeling, I don't belong here. I'm different. It could be at your home, at work, or in the city you live or country. Even if you're living in your home country, you feel I'm different, people don't appreciate me, don't know me. So a lot of the Rahu Dasha is about analyzing and understanding what are the things, what you can do. And I'll be making a list at the end about what remedies. So do watch to the end. So the overall Rahu Dasha, these aspects are important. Then Rahu and Ketu join together in 7 of the 16 Varga chart. I have detailed it in my new book on the Shodasha Varga, the 16 divisional charts. There's a separate chapter on Rahu, Ketu, and the Vargas. And this is very important because it doesn't happen in any of the other dashas where two planets are conjoined together and they are creating some kind of karmic inflow there, some obstacles depending on where it is. So it is important to look at the Vargas where Rahu Ketu are placed, and that is a key factor. Then you have to see, what is the house placement of Rahu Ketu. So generally 3rd, 6th, 10th and 11th house of Rahu Ketu, these are good positions for Rahu Ketu. So if you have them in those houses, either from your ascendant or from your moon sign, both positions are good positions. These are Upachaya houses, growth houses. Rahu does well there. So if you have Rahu in those positions, then that is very positive. Now, one other thing you have to keep in mind is what are the aspects to Rahu? Is Rahu being aspected by Jupiter? If Jupiter has an aspect on Rahu, Rahu is much calmer. What is the company Rahu keeps? If Rahu is in conjunction with Mars, Saturn, that is a much more difficult energy for Rahu, or under aspects of them, because they can aggravate the situation of Rahu. Of course, if you have Rahu moon or Rahu sun, these are complex conjunctions. Any conjunction to Rahu gets colored by Rahu. And of course, in the Rahu Dasha, and if you have, say, Rahu Sun conjunction, then you have to look at Rahu Sun Dasha to see how it is affecting. Of course, the houses matter and the aspect. If Rahu is under the aspect of Jupiter, it is much calmer. It doesn't take away all Rahu's difficult energies or shadowy aspect, but it calms it down. It cools it down. It's not so agitated. With Rahu, we are always trying to manage Rahu and, discipline yourself, not think that you can just about do anything, even though you may be able to do anything, but Rahu can very easily destabilize you. So do remember to watch the end of the video for the remedies. So what about the bhuktis or the antaras? So the antaras, the sabdashas, there are 3 names you can call them. I like to call bhukti because bhukti means bhugatna. What are you going to experience? And then antara means inner, and sabdasha means the second dasha after Rahu. So because Rahu is 18 years long, we want to see what are the antaras that are coming and how they are going to affect. So of course, the first is Rahu. And that is, I would say, the most complex aspect of Rahu, because it's pure Rahu. It's for about 2.5 years, and all the shadowies and energies are there, and we don't know how to handle it. So always the start of any dasha, we are taking care, and especially the Mars Rahu Chidra Dasha, where the end of Mars and beginning of Rahu, you are being very conscious, because Rahu can bring all the fears, anxiety, outsider feeling, and especially if your Rahu is complex in your chart, then Rahu can bring all the anxieties to fore. So Rahu, the first dasha, then Rahu, Jupiter. So actually, when people come into Rahu, Jupiter, there's some calming of energy, because the guru, the advisor, your inner voice, your good advice to Rahu feels calmer in Rahu, Jupiter. And of course, you have to see how they are placed to each other, because that is another key factor, how they are placed and what houses they are from each other. But if Rahu, Jupiter, and 6, 8, 12 from each other, that is difficult. If you have Rahu, Jupiter conjunction, that is difficult yoga to have. It is Guru Chandala yoga. That means you have propensity of taking wrong advice. So be careful of that. But normally Rahu Jupiter is much easier to deal with. Now, Rahu Saturn, two malefics. Whenever there are two malefics, Dasha and Antara, means that there are two intense energies together. Saturn may be the best planet for you, and this may be a very constructive, organized type of Dasha. Now, Rahu acts like Saturn. So you have like two Rahus or two Saturns together, both determined to achieve their agendas. And you see, Rahu is interested in fulfilling his past life desires. Saturn has a different agenda. He wants you to pay off your karma. So they can, even though Rahu acts like Saturn, his objective is different. And it is always good to think what the sub period is telling you, what the Antara is telling you, to be more organized, to be more disciplined, and not to feel intense. I always find that when the energies are very intense, to focus on work, to focus on responsibility, and not feel dissatisfied with life at this stage. And of course, if you do have a Rahu-Saturn conjunction in your chart, then you have to pinpoint this as a more challenging dasha for you, and how Rahu-Saturn are placed from each other. Rahu Mercury, again, Mercury is a friend of Rahu. This is a much easier period. You feel relaxed, not so stressed out about all the pressures of Saturn. Mercury, of course, is easily influenceable. So when you get Rahu Mercury, is Mercury being totally influenced by Rahu and getting even more anxious or worried, or is Mercury influencing Rahu and giving some good intellectual, analytical thinking? Rahu is also the head, so he can think quite strongly and carefully. But he's always determined to want more. And Mercury can give him a good way to analyze and think and work with the energy. Also, in each of these Antaras, you have to see what houses the planets rule. Of course, is Mercury a good planet for your ascendant, then Mercury will have a very good effect. If Mercury is strong in your chart, then there's a different energy to look forward to. Then we come to the main one in Rahu Ketu Dasha. So this is only twice in a lifetime can you get either Rahu Ketu or Ketu Rahu. But Rahu Ketu is quite complex dasha. Ketu deals with past life, Rahu deals with the present or the future. So it can be very pressurized. Also, you do need to look in your dashas or in the vargas. There's D16 and D20 and D24. And there are various vargas that Rahu Ketu are together. So you have to see if there's any other issue there. But Ketu can bring old issues, and it can kind of freeze you into something. Sometimes I've noticed people have a very good Rahu Ketu Dasha because they are reconciled with their past karma, and Ketu can bring a lot of opportunities for them. But you see, it's the nodal axis is complete here. So you have to see how Ketu is, what houses they are. But generally in the chart, one of them is more negatively placed. So we have to have one of them not working so well. So what you have to be careful in the Rahu Ketu Dasha is that you don't destabilize yourself. It is more to be spiritual, to pass this time and to develop yourself spiritually, and wait till the next dasha comes. And the next dasha is really very important because we come into Rahu Venus. Now, Venus as Shukracharya is the guru of Rahu. So Venus, sub-period, Venus Antara can be very good period because Rahu is calm, his guru is next to him, and Venus is able to soothe the fears of Rahu. It is generally a good period. Of course, you have to see, is Venus a good planet for your ascendant, how Venus is placed itself. But the overall aspect of Venus and Rahu, Venus's influence on Rahu is very profound, and Rahu can be soothed and calmed down. Then we come to Rahu Sun. Now, remember that Rahu is inimical to the Sun and the Moon. So both the next two antaras are not so easy. So Rahu Sun, Rahu is enemy to the Sun, and he wants to take away all what the Sun is giving. And Sun is light. It's showing light to the darkness of Rahu. But Rahu is not interested in getting the light because it exposes him, it exposes his secrets and what he's going to do. So I would say that, at this stage of Rahu Dasha, the next 3 sub-periods are all very complex, and we have to take very great care as we are kind of beginning of end of Rahu Dasha. There's still time to go. There's about 3 years still to go, but we should be very conscious of this. And Rahu can sometimes Rahu Sun can bring opportunities if Sun is strong, well placed, a good planet for your Lagna. But you must remember there are 2 malefics, and Rahu is inimical to the Sun. So he will give you wrong advice. He will try to manipulate your respect and honor and those things. So be cautious about that. And Rahu Moon is regarded as the most complex dasha of all. The reason is this, that out of the enemies of Rahu, Rahu is most inimical to the Moon, even more than the Sun. So when Rahu is with the Moon, the mind is very troubled, and Rahu is bringing more anxiety, worry. And it is important, you should be doing your mantra practice, spiritual practice. It doesn't matter how strong your moon is. You could have an exalted moon. It may be the best planet for your Lagna. But Rahu has this thing about disturbing the moon and swallowing the moon and creating disturbance in your emotions. And remember, what are the things Rahu makes you do? He makes you feel dissatisfied. He makes you trouble your mind. Your thinking is worried, brings anxiety. Rahu makes you feel like an outsider. Rahu feels you're not doing enough, so you feel emotionally bound to do more and more. So it is really important to keep your discipline, keep your control, and do mantra practice, do study, focus on things so that you're not just focusing on your dissatisfactions. And now we come to the last part of Rahu Mars. So remember, this is the ending dasha. I've always spoken about how we must be extra careful at the ending part of the dasha. Now Mars gives it impetus, he's the warrior. So he gives Rahu some kind of legs that I can do things and I can achieve everything. And you feel as if you haven't done enough. And I have seen many people misuse their Rahu Mars Dasha. If they come to me for consultation, I'm always advising, be careful, don't make any decisions. Even if you feel you haven't achieved anything, actually look back to what you have achieved and wait till the next Jupiter Dasha to come to make any decision, because Rahu can be very destructive, and Rahu Mars, he can be very impulsive and taking all the wrong actions. Sometimes people will divorce, sometimes they will take some risk, one risk too many, which spoils the situation for them. Then Jupiter has to try to manage that. So why create a difficulty for yourself? Because Mars is also impulsive planet. Rahu is also impulsive. And although they don't act like each other, the fire of Mars, it gives confidence to Rahu to do things. And better, it is a 1 year long dasha, better to wait it out. And that is the most important thing. So what about the remedies? You see, each dasha you're experiencing, this is the time you're experiencing. So it is important that you have to do the remedies for that planet. So there are some common sense remedies for Rahu. One is because Rahu makes you feel so dissatisfied that you have to recognize that that is somewhere in your psyche. Suddenly you start feeling dissatisfied. I was going through a Rahu sub period recently, and suddenly I started feeling like that. And then I thought, oh my, I'm in Rahu sub period. I should be careful. I'm perfectly happy what I'm doing. So that is where you have to think about, what is the dissatisfaction? Why are you? What are the positive things for you? Whatever area Rahu is bothering you, it is important. Rahu is shadowy, so he keeps things under wraps as well, doesn't reveal the situation for you. So, the anxiety, if you feel anxiety, then it is good to do yoga, Vedic studies, mantra practice. A very good mantra for Rahu. I'm doing mantras in a separate video, and you can see them. But Goddess Durga, she is the deity for Rahu, and her mantra is also very good to do. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. So think about it at the start of your Rahu Dasha. If you're in the middle of it, you start doing this. Whenever you feel anxious, you feel out of sorts, outsider, you feel dissatisfied, you focus on Goddess Durga. That is a very important thing. You can download a picture of hers from online. You can buy a small murti, an idol, if you want to, have her in the home. You can also do the mantra chanting, as I explained to you. Now, because, and secondly, with Rahu, always if you're trying to do things, always try to discipline yourself, don't feel that you can be the master of the universe. Maybe, 50% less is good. Sometimes Rahu can take you to very exciting journey, and it can be very interesting, but he can drop you down as well. So we have to be careful with Rahu. That doesn't mean that if you have a good Rahu, that you don't enjoy it. If you have a strong, good Rahu, well aspected Rahu, Rahu can make you achieve everything. However, restraint, calmness, those are very good friends for you during Rahu Dasha. So all the best. Thank you very much.